At this time, it is an honor to introduce Governor Doug Ducey. Elected in November of 2014, Governor Ducey was sworn into office as the 23rd governor of the state of Arizona on January 5th, 2015, with a mission to make Arizona the best state in the country to live, work, do business, and get an education. Governor Ducey and state leaders got to work. Today, Governor Ducey remains committed to his priorities to grow the economy, create and support 21st century jobs, promote educational excellence, protect communities, and restore fiscal responsibility. And given the West Valley's proximity to the West Coast and international ports of entry, we are fortunate to have a governor who ranks the importance of trade as another top priority. Governor Ducey is a successful businessman, having served as CEO of Cold Stone Creamery. His service to the state began as Arizona State Treasurer from 2011 to 2015. Governor Ducey was born in Toledo, Ohio, and moved to Arizona to attend Arizona State University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Finance. Please help me welcome to the stage a Sun Devil and Arizona's governor, the Honorable Doug Ducey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Go Devils! Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the warm reception. And I want to say to Bobby and Cintra and to Westmark how grateful I am for hosting this luncheon here today. It's great to be back out in the West Valley. I'm grateful to be here to continue our work moving Arizona forward. Sometimes that work is accomplished through legislation and policy, debated and voted on at the state capitol. Other times it's through the actions of everyday citizens stepping up and making a difference for others. But more often than not, change and progress happens in our state through the capacity of its people to always be ahead of the curve, knocking down barriers. And in Arizona, we're comfortable with breaking with conformity. This April marks 30 years since one of our state's most beloved and cherished leaders stood at a podium just like this, beehive and all, and shattered the glass ceiling through all 9 floors of the executive tower all the way up to the governor's office. What better way to honor and further Governor Rose Mofford's legacy than with a new historic achievement reached this past August? The highest percentage of female legislators of any state in the nation. And here are 3 additional milestones that only Arizona can claim. 1, more women governors than any other state in American history. 2, is that unbelievable? The home of the first female United States Supreme Court Justice. And 3, the state that 2 decades ago voted women into every single statewide elected executive position. There are no lack of powerful and impressive women role models for the young people of our state, inside and outside of state government. Moms and grandmothers, judges and mayors, congresswomen and CEOs, the first female NFL coach, a university president, the chancellor of the largest community college in the country, the police and fire chiefs of the 5th largest city in America. This trail was blazed long ago. Icons like Rose Mofford and Sandra Day O'Connor fought with grit and determination for fair treatment and achieved greatness. And they didn't do it for women in the year 2018 to face discrimination, misogyny, or harassment. The reason they did it was so the women who followed them would not only have their voices heard in our country, but so they would lead and shape our great country. It should go without saying, but down at the Capitol on Monday, I felt it bared repeating. Every individual deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Always, no exceptions. Private sector, public sector, in my office, in state agencies, in the halls of our state capitol, and everywhere else. In Arizona, we are blessed to stand on the shoulders of giants. Rose Mofford and Sandra Day O'Connor are two in a long list. Whether it's Bruce Babbitt's work ushering in the historic water policy that's allowed us to grow and thrive in the desert, John McCain's selfless service to country, Gabby Gifford's resilience against all odds, Mo Udall and Barry Goldwater showing us what bipartisanship really looks like, or Lori Piestawa, the first Native American woman to die in combat on foreign soil, giving the ultimate sacrifice to protect her fellow Americans. We have no lack of heroes. As we begin our work this year, these leaders should serve as a reminder of what it means to serve others well. Ladies and gentlemen, we enter 2018 with confidence and conviction, promise and possibility. The state of our state is strong, and our future is without limits. By working together with a spirit of service, with integrity, humility, by forgetting about who should get the credit, we can move Arizona forward, and in a way that will make our fellow citizens proud. So let's get to work. We have a good foundation to build on. Washington, D.C. can't seem to get much done. In Arizona, we have a solid track record of getting down to business and working across our aisle on solutions. Last year, more than 90% of the legislation we passed at the state level was bipartisan. In fact, most of it is best described as nonpartisan. It's a good thing because there's an ongoing crisis we face that calls for this no-nonsense approach. And it's one that must unite us if we are to take action with care and urgency. Since this time last year, we've lost more than 800 Arizonans to opioids. These are real lives and real people gone. Someone's mom, their dad, daughters and sons, all ages, all incomes. Families, marriages, and lives torn apart, tragically and unexpectedly, because of a potent drug, misprescribed, overprescribed, and then, before you know it, it's too late. There's no turning back. We've taken some important steps to date, cracking down on doc shopping, making naloxone readily available to first responders to stop an overdose, limits on first fills. But this much is clear. This epidemic requires a more aggressive approach. When we have 4 doctors in one small rural county of 200,000 people prescribing 6 million opioid pills in just 1 year, 6 million, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. And we know that 75% of heroin addicts started on opioids. So last June, I declared a public health emergency to bring awareness and solutions to this crisis. Out of that, Arizona's top medical, addiction, and public safety officials have presented thoughtful and serious policy proposals to stop the deaths. I'm grateful for their work. Of the proposals, some are aggressive. Some may be controversial, and frankly, some don't go far enough. Some people think this is not the role of government, but rules and regulations are there to protect public health and public safety, and I intend to do both. In the coming days and in partnership with legislative leadership, I will call for a special session so Arizona can focus on this as one of our first orders of business with the priority it deserves. Our package will attack this issue from all angles. Now hear this, while protecting individuals who suffer from chronic pain and maintaining compassion for those struggling with addiction. This much I commit. All bad actors will be held accountable, whether they are doctors, manufacturers, or just plain drug dealers. When it comes to protecting public safety, we know who's on the front lines. Our cops, firefighters, and first responders and members of our armed forces talk about the ultimate demonstration of public service. Their families, too. When mom and dad walks out the door, they are walking straight into danger. As the son of a cop, I know this firsthand. Last year, we faced an especially aggressive fire season. And because of the dedication and commitment of our fire professionals at the state and local level, combined with National Guard and first responders, these fires were contained and homes, lives, and pets were saved. But their work didn't stop there. More than 150 Arizona firefighters stepped up to assist our neighbors in California during the tragic fires that blazed through LA. With the sacrifice of the Yarnell 19 still fresh in our minds, we thank all of you for your courage and bravery. Our police officers are also facing new challenges and are rising to the occasion with valor. 2 years in, our border strike force continues to stop the flow of illegal drugs, weapons, and cash into our state. We made a decision. If Washington, D.C. wasn't going to secure our border, Arizona would. So far, the stats are staggering. 238 guns seized, 167,745 rounds of ammunition seized, 47,842 pounds of marijuana seized, and 11 million hits of heroin seized. All by our brave and smart troopers, working alongside local, federal, and Mexican authorities. This is, without a doubt, making Arizona and America a safer place, and it's worthy of our continued investment. On the topic of public safety, we wake up too frequently these days to the report of another death on our highways, a wrong-way driver, and in many cases it comes back to drugs or alcohol. You think it'd be obvious by now, but to anyone out there who hasn't gotten the memo, booze, drugs, and driving don't mix. Your actions are beyond foolish, they're lethal, and we will not tolerate it. Those reckless enough to put lives on the line by driving the wrong way on our highways under the influence of drugs or alcohol should face a felony conviction and prison time, no exceptions. And if you break the law, our troopers will have their sights set on you because we're targeting even more efforts here. An enhanced wrong-way driver night watch with resources to match. We're going to zero in on these criminals with the goal of stopping these accidents and saving lives. Whether you're wearing a uniform or you're a good Samaritan, everyone plays a part when it comes to public safety. We've all heard the mantra, see something, say something, or do something. On January 12th, 2017, Ed Anderson started his day as he did most others. He put on his work uniform, kissed his wife goodbye, and began his shift in one of the most dangerous professions, as a law enforcement officer. Ed had experienced a lot during his 27 years of service as a state trooper, but nothing would prepare him for the day ahead. While en route to a scene, Trooper Anderson spotted a rollover car wreck. He stopped to assist a woman ejected from the crash and was immediately ambushed by the meth-infused driver of the car. First he was shot and then physically assaulted. Enter Thomas Yaxel. Thomas was on his way out of town on the I-10 when he encountered the terrifying scene. A wounded Trooper Anderson under assault by a man Thomas described as possessing the look of evil in his eyes. Thomas acted fast, on gut instinct, pulling over, grabbing his gun, and after the aggressor refused to stop, Thomas took action. Thomas Yaxel says the good Lord put him there that day, and we are blessed that he did. And that fact, combined with the Second Amendment and a citizen's God-given right to keep and bear arms, ended up saving Trooper Anderson's life. The men have formed a bond that will last a lifetime. 2 decades ago, Thomas Yaxel says it wouldn't have ended this way. He was on probation, in trouble with the law, after a series of mistakes he had made in his youth. Today, his life is back on track. His rights have been restored, and he represents the ultimate second chance story, and a reminder that every life matters, and no one should fall through the cracks in our society. If someone has paid their debt and served their time, the last thing we want is for them to find themselves back in trouble with the law, and our policy can play a part. At Second Chance Centers we launched last year at prisons in Tucson and Phoenix, we're teaching life and career skills to inmates who are scheduled to leave prison soon. Dozens of employers are participating, and hundreds of the inmates that have graduated through these programs to date Many are leaving prison with multiple job prospects. I want to expand these programs with the capacity for 975 more inmates to participate each year. I've learned a lot from these people, from their letters and from meeting with them. One said, for future inmates, a word of encouragement. God placed you here for a reason. You must want to help yourself in order to be successful. One example of that is Donald Stevenson. Donald spent 10 years behind bars, nearly his entire 20s. At age 29, he was released and found stability in the form of an entry-level job at Austin Electric. 3 years later, Donald has turned his life around, risen through the ranks, owns a home, and is now focused on helping others, training inmates to become skilled electricians just like him. These efforts and others are paying off. We've seen a 10% drop in released inmates going back to prison on a technical violation. And Arizona is experiencing the largest drop in the number of inmates in our prisons since 1974. And we want to keep this going. One of the biggest impediments for released inmates to get back on their feet is the lack of a legal form of identification. I've instructed the Department of Transportation to work with the Department of Corrections to do everything they can to get soon-to-be released inmates' IDs before they walk out the doors. We want to get people off the streets and in a job with the goal of shutting down prisons, not building new ones. For too many years, Arizona saw spending on prison facilities go up and spending on K-12 education go down. Not anymore. For the second year in a row, my budget will add no new prison beds. All this while fighting crime and improving public safety. In addition, my cabinet continues to identify millions in wasteful spending, opportunities for consolidation, and streamlined services. I want to spend these dollars, tens of millions combined, where they can go to better use in our public schools and for our teachers. Before we talk dollars and cents, let's address something. Some folks think the best argument for a greater investment in our public schools is to claim that our schools are failing. Well, they're wrong. The most compelling argument for investing in our public schools is that they are improving and getting better. And it has the added benefit of also actually being true. You wouldn't always know it from picking up the paper or turning on the TV, but Arizona public schools are showing real, measurable signs of progress, and they are leading the nation in some important areas. 4 of the top 5 public high schools in America are in Arizona, and one of those schools is in Peoria. Arizona students continue to lead the nation in improvements in reading and math. 3 Arizona school districts, including Peoria Unified, placed in the top 20 nationwide for academic gains. You see, we know how to educate a child in the state of Arizona. We just need to do it more often in more locations across our state. So let's get some facts straight. Overall, per pupil spending is up 10% since 2015 in the state of Arizona, and that's adjusted for inflation. Over the last 3 years, we've committed $1.7 billion new state dollars to K-12 education. Since fiscal year 2015, school districts have increased their investment in teacher salaries by 9%. It is clear principals, superintendents, and school board members are directing these dollars where they should go, to our dedicated teachers. I've pledged to increase spending on K-12 education above and beyond inflation every year I am your governor. I've also said we'll never check the box on public education. We can always do more for our kids and teachers. In fact, just yesterday, standing in unity with education leaders from across the state, I announced that we are fully restoring a key part of the education formula that was cut during the Great Recession. This will mean an additional $100 million for schools in the next fiscal year. And when fully implemented, will provide our schools with $371 million more to spend wherever they see fit. But that's not it. This year's budget will include $400 million new dollars for K-12 education. If we can get this passed, we can stop paying lawyers and instead provide another major infusion of dollars for our teachers. At the same time, we are maintaining our investments in targeted programs that are working and making a difference. All-day kindergarten, career and technical education, computer science and coding, reducing wait lists, closing the achievement gap, high-speed internet for rural schools, and new school buses with that new school bus smell. In fact, 80% of our new budget priorities will be for public education. We know what works. We know how to get things done. We've done it before. Proposition 123 was the result of a partnership between Democrats and Republicans, the education and business communities, the voters for saying yes, and of course, our teachers, the biggest difference makers of them all. If we are to succeed on future efforts around public education, we must work the same way, together. The excellence in our public education system doesn't end at 12th grade. Our 3 public universities continue to be national pillars in higher education, and our 3 university presidents are leaders among their peers. Arizona is lucky to have President Michael Crow at ASU, President Rita Chang at NAU, and President Bobby Robbins at the U of A. Now, we all see the headlines from Berkeley to Harvard, from Missouri to Middlebury. Protest and violence aimed at silencing speech that some just don't want to hear. One college student protesting a visiting speaker was asked about the First Amendment by a reporter. The student responded that the Constitution just isn't that relevant anymore. Unbelievable. I want to salute our university presidents, our community college leaders, our professors, and our students. Here in Arizona, on our campuses, debate is encouraged, free speech is protected, and diversity of thought isn't just a platitude, it's alive and well in lecture halls, on debate stages, and in the pages of college newspapers. And as someone who has taken the oath of office to preserve and protect the United States Constitution, I'm here to tell you, the Constitution is not only relevant, it's the law of the land. And in Arizona, it will be respected and the government will abide by it. It's worth remembering, for centuries, American men and women have laid down their lives to protect that Constitution. Every day, we say goodbye to members of our greatest generation, including our Navajo code talkers. And it's important our kids, the next greatest generation, know their history and know these stories. There's also more we can do for those who have so nobly served us so bravely, like letting our vets keep more of the benefits they have so courageously earned. It's been nearly 30 years since Arizona created the tax exemption for military retirement pay, but it's capped, and not once have we increased it. Arizona has more than 600,000 veterans. And for military retirees who qualify for the exemption, inflation alone has chopped it in half. Their service has earned them a lifetime benefit from our nation. So I want to increase the exemption and demonstrate to our vets that we value this service. There are so many issues that we can find common ground on, like protecting the lives of children in our state. That's why we acted to prevent 24,530 low-income children from getting health insurance cancellation notices days before Christmas. As Washington continues to dither on this issue, and while members of Congress give meaningless floor speeches and drag their feet, in Arizona, we've got a plan to fund kids' care through the spring. But in the meantime, help me send a message to Congress. Do your job. Meanwhile, just 2 years ago, the problems at the state's new Child Safety Department seemed insurmountable and impossible to fix. But because of the committed service of our state's child safety workers, nonprofit organizations, and the faith-based community, combined with legislative support, the Casey Family Programs just named Arizona the best in the country for its foster care reduction. The backlog that plagued that agency for so long has been eliminated. The average caseload has dropped from 145 cases to 16. And since a year ago, we have found safety and permanency for nearly 11,000 children. So I'm proud to announce that our budget investment this year will be in adoption services because we are finding kids loving homes. Again, I want to thank our faith-based community for stepping up to the plate. This is where we need your energy and action. Please don't let up now. When it comes to new parents, we can always offer more support. Last year, we expanded our Happy Babies initiatives. It's been a huge success, letting moms and dads bring their newborns to work in the early months. Happy Babies is now deployed in 9 state agencies, and more than 250 babies have graduated. We've got plans to continue expanding it. Even better, private sector companies have reached out wanting to model their own programs after it, helping more Arizona parents avoid having to decide between work and family. After all, it's these dedicated state employees who are driving results and making the difference in efficiencies throughout our government. They are valued members of our team. They are a model to other states, counties, cities, and even the federal government of how to provide quality customer service to the taxpayer. For example, while bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. target Arizona's Salt River horses, we're targeting needless state regulations. Last year, we wiped out 676, eliminated them. And our estimates show that these reforms have saved real people more than $48 million. That's the equivalent of a $48 million tax cut without costing the general fund $1. But we're not stopping there. We're not stopping there. For decade after decade after decade, red tape has been added on. And for too long, no one in government ever stopped to ask why. Well, in Tucson, Juan Carlos did ask why. You see, Juan Carlos just wanted to give back, providing haircuts to homeless veterans. The way he saw it, it was a way to recognize their service and give them a helpful hand, maybe to prepare for a job interview. That was until the bullies at the State Cosmetology Board sought to stop him and stall his career because he hadn't yet kissed their ring. This is the kind of service that should be celebrated, not sanctioned. I sent a letter to the board demanding that they back off, and they did. So fortunately, Juan Carlos can keep cutting hair and keep doing the right thing. But these same special interest bullies are at it again. This time going after people who simply want to make a living blow drying hair. No scissors involved. It's the latest craze, and one where government currently requires at least 1,000 hours of training. 25 weeks. More than an EMT, certified nursing assistant, or truck driver. I want to change that so more Arizonans can get to work. Over the past 3 years, we've worked hard to transform the culture of state government, shutting down unnecessary state agencies, waiving licensing fees for those in poverty. We're cutting red tape, chipping away at regulations, and opening up economic freedom. I want to give a word of warning to those bureaucrats, and yes, even some elected officials who are resisting this effort. This train is leaving the station. It's time to get on board. And if you don't, you are going to get left behind. The good news is, should you get left behind, you'll re-enter a workforce with lots of new private sector jobs waiting. Because in Arizona, we know the recipe for success. Lower taxes, light regulation, great public schools, superior quality of life, and responsible water policies that will protect us from sharing in California's water crisis. Earning Arizona's reputation as a national leader in water management was no easy feat, and it didn't happen by accident. It was the proactive nature of our predecessors and the state's willingness to take on complex issues. We must now follow their lead and ensure that Arizona speaks with one voice to secure the state's water future for generations to come. Our economy is growing, so a plan of action is needed. Just look at how far we've come. We went from $1 billion budget shortfall 3 years ago to discussion today over how to spend these additional dollars. Since 2015, we've added more than 160,000 private sector jobs. The last time the unemployment rate was this low, we were all renting our movies from Blockbuster. And now Silicon Valley's companies are flocking to Arizona. The New York Times recently featured our success, labeling it a tech boom. When's the last time the New York Times had anything positive to say about Arizona? Keep this up, and who knows, The Daily Show might even have something nice to say about us. Meanwhile, we're used to attracting companies from California. That's easy. But now we're even taking them from Texas. We're doing something right. People vote with their feet. Today, Maricopa County is the fastest growing county in the country, and Arizona is at an all-time record high, 7 million plus residents. Credit goes to our citizens, job creators, and their workers. We want Arizona to be the entrepreneurial capital of the U.S., the place where new technologies come to flourish, and we're well on our way. Helping our advantage, our proximity to our largest trading partner times 4, Mexico. The cooperative relationship we've forged is improving things at every level: trade, growth in the economy, jobs, and increased border security. I want to acknowledge the leadership of the first female governor in the history of our sister state of Sonora, Governor Claudia Pavlovich, whose friendship and partnership has created a safer and more prosperous place for all our people. In fact, I just announced our latest major economic win resulting from this relationship last Friday. Our state will be home to Arizona Skybridge, the nation's first international air cargo hub to house both Mexican and United States customs. This will, for companies conducting business in Mexico and throughout South America, allow us to more efficiently transport goods between our countries. In short, Skybridge will transform Arizona into an international e-commerce powerhouse. We're excited for this project and for what it means for job growth in our state. And I must say that I'm very excited for the economic growth happening right here in the West Valley. With 1.6 million residents in the West Valley, your impact on the state's economy is immense. Nearly 40% of Maricopa County's healthcare workers live here, alongside 1/3 of Arizona's manufacturing workers. Amazon has announced that it will be adding a new distribution center, bringing 1,000 new jobs to the West Valley. And Chewy Inc. is bringing fulfillment operations to Goodyear, along with 700 new jobs. These are just a few of several exciting announcements you've had recently, and I want to encourage you to keep it up. A lot of work will get done at the Capitol over the next several weeks, but the real work in our state is happening out here. These last 3 years, I've been to every county in our state, and I like what I've seen. Public schools, small businesses, large companies, farms, churches, tribal nations, little leagues, nonprofits, northern Arizona, southern Arizona, Arizonans looking out for each other, lifting each other up. There are no party labels out here, just good, hard-working people looking to make this a better place to live, not only for them and their families, but for others. Just take a visit to St. Mary's Food Bank and you'll see it. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary. To date, they've provided more than 1 billion meals to those who need it most. Every day, dozens of volunteers show up and roll up their sleeves, and for no other reason than to help their fellow citizens. It's that spirit of service that got us here, and it's that spirit of service that will lead Arizona into the future. Now, I don't want to sound naive. I realize we are a country divided, and in many ways, a people divided. Our state as well. But as a country, we've been here before in more difficult circumstances. So let's remember the words of that great original American nationalist, Abraham Lincoln, at the close of his first inaugural address. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Governor Ducey, for your time with us this afternoon. There's a room here full of healthcare professionals and education staff, elected officials, and we are all here behind you to help you implement your 2018 priorities. And I'm going to say on a kind of a personal note here, Christina Vossler, who is the backbone behind all of our events, I think you've met her. She is expecting her first child this summer, and so I really like the idea of happy babies, and I think Westmark might be the first business implementing that in the West Valley right now. So there you go. Thanks again for joining us, and we appreciate your time. Enjoy.